The arbitration landscape in Asia is changing in several ways. Firstly, we're seeing more and more disputes that might have gone to resolution in arbitration centres outside Asia now being resolved in Asia, particularly in Hong Kong and Singapore. And with that is a growth in the arbitration infrastructure in Asia, both in the law firms and in the supporting services such as the damages expert work that my team and I do. Secondly, we're seeing changes particularly between Singapore and Hong Kong in the East Asian market. Hong Kong remains busy with work, but increasingly it's China-focused work that the Hong Kong market is dealing with, whereas Singapore is growing strongly as well. And what we hear from the parties that we talk with and the law firms we talk with is that more and more contracts that would have had a Hong Kong arbitration clause in the past now have a Singapore International Arbitration Centre dispute resolution clause. So in time we expect that to increase activity in Singapore relative to Hong Kong, while we expect also Hong Kong to remain strong. Lastly, there's a lot of interest in arbitration in India, where famously the courts are very, very busy and delays can be quite long. And arbitration is part of a solution to help get quicker dispute resolution in India. The impetus for there being more disputes handled in Asia relative to the past, I think, is because the infrastructure in Asia continues to grow. So there's two very capable, very strong international arbitration centres in Singapore and Hong Kong, which parties increasingly trust. The local service providers, the law firms, the expert firms and other service providers continue to build in capability and size, so the infrastructure is there. I think increasingly parties trust the arbitration process and the arbitration centres and the arbitration community in Singapore and Hong Kong particularly to resolve their big disputes. So the challenges that our clients are facing in the region, we see a lot of shareholder disputes in the region, both post-transaction disputes and joint venture disputes. And we see a small but increasing number of investor-state disputes where an investor from one jurisdiction is alleging that it's suffered breaches of an investment treaty. And secondly, we're seeing a small but increasing number of investor-state disputes where an investor from one country is alleging that the government of another country has mistreated it under the terms of an investment treaty and are arguing for the losses that they suffered. We work with the parties to disputes and their law firms to act as expert witnesses to put a figure on the losses that parties have suffered. We help translate the events that the parties are complaining of and the legal framework within which the dispute is taking place and turn that into an assessment of the appropriate amount of money that should change hands as a result of the dispute. So quantifying the loss suffered by the party. And we work sometimes on the claimant side and sometimes with respondents. But in either case, we're trying to help the tribunal or court that's making the decision on this case to come to the appropriate amount of money that should change hands given different findings of fact or law that the decision maker might make. What's challenging about being an expert witness is that we work closely typically with one party or the other to a dispute and with their law firm. But on the other hand, we have an obligation of objectivity and independence to the court or tribunal that we're giving evidence to. And that's our primary obligation. Sometimes parties or their law firms want to pull us in one direction, but our primary duty is to the court and tribunal. So sometimes we have to explain to our clients why we can't say what they would like us to say in the dispute. In Asia, we have a team of nearly 50 consultants and several testifying experts spread across India, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Korea. And we have by some way the biggest footprint of any team offering our services across the region. And we have great experts in all of those markets. So we can really bring the expertise that our team and our Asia team sits within a global team that is also the largest team doing what we do globally. So we have a lot of collective experience. We have a lot of great experts around the world that we can draw on that experience in resolving the disputes. So you get the global expertise, but we're also embedded in a lot of the local markets, which means we understand the culture, we understand the languages, we understand the business context. So that really allows us to get to the heart of the issues that we're working with and explain to the courts and tribunals. We give evidence before what's really been lost in a particular dispute.